The horror genre allows fans to indulge their morbid curiosity about the myriad ways, both natural and not, that human beings can be shuffled off their mortal coil, though it's also fair to say that the vast majority of horror movie deaths aren't really that memorable. Of course, that doesn't mean skilled filmmakers can't break through the jadedness, and that's certainly what these did, each of which served up gnarly, outrageous, and downright unforgettable kills that we'll be talking about long into 2025 and beyond. With that in mind, I'm Sean Ferry for What Culture Horror, and here are the 10 best movie kills of 2024. Number 10. The Antichrist, Immaculate. Immaculate was a surprisingly visceral entry into the strangely overcrowded pregnant nun horror movie subgenre last year, and it saved the best for last with its absolute face melter of a final scene. In an incredible 3-minute single-take sequence, Sister Cecilia, played by Sydney Sweeney, delivers the demonic baby she was forcibly impregnated with, the camera remaining trained on her face as she expresses clear horror at whatever fresh hell, literally, she just birthed. We never see the baby, but it's clearly something otherworldly and abominable, evidenced by its animalistic cries. And so Cecilia surmises to do the only thing she has the power to do in the situation. She grabs a huge rock nearby and smashes the damn thing to death. The end. For anyone who still doesn't believe the hype around Sydney Sweeney as an actress, her astonishing performance in this scene cemented her as one of horror's preeminent scream queens right now, and seeing her destroy the creature she was forced to carry to term is just oh so satisfying. Number 9. Lewis, Smile 2. Picking just one great death scene from Smile 2 sure wasn't easy, but it just has to be the brutally unflinching demise of Sky Riley's drug dealer, Lewis, played by Lucas Cage. After the trauma curse is passed on to Lewis in the opening sequence, Sky, played by Naomi Scott, pays him a visit to pick up some drugs, only for him to be in the midst of a freakout, having evidently been tormented by the Smile entity for the preceding week. The scene culminates in Lewis finally being fully possessed by the entity, which kills him in front of Sky by forcing him to repeatedly smash his own face to pieces with a giant barbell plate. Filmmaker Parker Finn lingers on Lewis's face as it's further destroyed with each subsequent blow, until his jaw is straight up hanging off and he finally, perhaps mercifully, falls down dead. And to be clear, he's still smiling the entire damn time, in turn passing the curse onto Sky, and well, if you've seen the movie, you'll know how that turns out. Number 8. Father Harris, The First Omen. The First Omen gets its grimmest kill out of the way right at the very beginning, when Father Brennan, played by Ralph Ineson, talks to Father Harris, played by Charles Dance, about an ongoing occult conspiracy, only for the scene to end with Harris being brutally, suspiciously killed. In a gorgeously gut-wrenching slow-motion sequence, we see a construction pipe fall from the top of the church they're standing in front of, after which it seemingly lands behind Harris, just barely missing him. Harris initially insists he's fine and goes to walk it off, at which point we see a horrified Brennan do the sign of the cross gesture because he's clearly seen something we haven't. At that moment, Harris then turns around, revealing to the audience that the pole actually cleaved a huge chunk away from the back of his head. Even so, he smiles eerily at Brennan, blood staining his teeth, before the scene abruptly cuts to black, leaving us well aware that Harris is mere seconds away from falling over dead. Talk about an opening scene that immediately obliterated all that pre-release hand-wringing about The First Omen being another listless horror prequel nobody asked for. Number 7. Danny, Oddity. Unlike most entries on this list, Oddity's opening kill isn't outwardly graphic in the slightest, but that doesn't make it any less unnerving to behold. The film begins with the murder of psychiatrist Ted, William Lee, his wife Danny, played by Carolyn Bracken, who is renovating their new home when she's attacked by a masked assailant in the middle of the night. While the moments leading up to Danny's death are extremely tense, director Damien McCarthy actually decides to spare us the grisly particulars of her end, instead letting us imagine it for ourselves, which is so much worse. As the killer approaches Danny with a large hammer in tow, McCarthy match cuts to Danny's tent, now covered in blood, while the faint silhouette of her bludgeoned corpse is barely visible. The jarring cut is brilliantly effective in conveying how savagely Danny was killed, and it only becomes more horrifying later on once we learn precisely who was behind it. Number 6. Carmichael Haig, Late Night with the Devil. It's always great fun to see douchebag characters get their brutal comeuppance, and that was certainly the case with Late Night with the Devil's tosser of a paranormal skeptic, Carmichael Haig, played by Ian Bliss. Even though Carmichael wishes to expose con artists, he's such a colossal asshole, from his casual sexism to his general arrogance, that it's basically impossible to like the guy. And so there was little sympathy to be spared when Carmichael finally realised beyond any doubt that the demonic entity possessing 13-year-old Lily D'Abo, played by Ingrid Torelli, was the real deal. After seeing the demon kill others working on the TV show, Carmichael hilariously decides to pledge his allegiance to the demon in a vain bid to save his own skin. But of course the possessed Lily doesn't accept, instead using her abilities to burn Haig, causing his flesh to melt away as he falls down dead. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, honestly. Number 5. Mia and Cole, Terrifier 3. Though Terrifier 3 never quite managed to top that unforgettable bedroom death scene from the previous film, it got pretty damn close with its wildly over-the-top shower room slaughter sequence. When true crime podcaster Mia, played by Alexa Blair Robertson, and her boyfriend Cole, played by Mason McCarthy, are going at it in a university shower, Art the Clown, played by the incomparable David Howard Thornton, takes the opportunity to catch them unawares with a chainsaw. Art smashes through the shower cubicle, at which point the naked duo try to fend him off without success. The nefarious clown quickly scalps Mia, obliterates her jaw, and lets her set eyes upon him before she dies, indulging her aforementioned morbid curiosity about him. As for Cole, he gets it even worse. Art shoves his chainsaw where the sun don't shine and slices Cole's tackle up for kicks before ripping his entire body in half and making snow angels in the gory remnants. As a testament to the artistry and ingenuity of filmmaker Damien Leone's practical gore effects, this sequence was masterful. Number 4. K. Alien Romulus. While it wouldn't be an Alien movie without a bunch of people being horribly killed, it seemed like the recent Alien Romulus would probably grant a stay of execution to pregnant colonist Kay, played by Isabella Merced. Yeah, about that. Kay is grimly wounded after encountering a xenomorph, prompting her to inject herself with Z01, a mutagen similar to the black goo from Prometheus, in a desperate bid to heal. Though she is indeed healed, the compound also mutates her fetus, which is suddenly birthed into an alien cocoon in ultra-violent fashion. The cocoon then hatches to a revolting human xenomorph hybrid, which grows to giant size in a mere matter of minutes. Kay, who is naturally defenseless following the birth, can only wait for her grotesque offspring to finish her off, though director Fede Alvarez mercifully avoids showing us the particulars of this. However, given that we see Kay lactating a black goo-like substance after injecting the mutagen, and the hybrid has a protruding tongue, you can surely imagine what Kay went through before finally being killed. Number 3. Longlegs. Longlegs. Though most likely assumed that Longlegs' titular antagonist, played by Nicolas Cage, would be killed off by FBI agent Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe, in an intense Silence of the Lambs-inspired climax, that's surprisingly not what happens at all, not even close. Instead, Longlegs makes his exit about 20 minutes before the end of the movie, after being captured by the FBI and put in an interrogation room where Harker prepares to confront him. Except shortly after Harker enters the room, Longlegs takes himself out by repeatedly slamming his head into the interrogation room table, obliterating his face enough to expose part of his skull, causing him to expire soon thereafter. Though some might lament that Nicolas Cage's screen time was disappointingly curtailed as a result, it was certainly a memorable and unexpected way to dispatch the primary villain, by his own hand no less. And that was far from the end of the terror. Lee still had Longlegs' secret apprentice to deal with, who turns out to be her own mother, Ruth, played by Alicia Witt. Number 2. Aurora in A Violent Nature. It's a testament to our number 1 pick that In a Violent Nature's utterly insane Yoga Girl pretzel kill from In a Violent Nature didn't take top honours. In the middle of Chris Nash's artsy slasher, Aurora, played by Charlotte Cragen, has her cliffside yoga sesh interrupted by masked killer Johnny, played by Rye Barrett, and it sure isn't a swift interruption, that's for sure. Rather, Johnny uses his hook to disembowel Aurora from behind, after which he contorts her head through that hole, then kicks her off the edge of the cliff as if to ensure the job was finished. Few death scenes in recent years have produced quite such a shocked response from audiences, in large part because of the cartoonish yet squirm-inducing level of brutality that comes totally out of nowhere in a movie that's been quite restrained up to this point. Nash is going to need all the luck in the world to top this kill in the recently announced In a Violent Nature sequel. Number 1. Elizabeth Sparkle, The Substance. And finally, somehow outdoing In a Violent Nature is The Substance, and the utterly unhinged fate that awaits its doomed protagonist Elizabeth Sparkle, played by Golden Globe winner Demi Moore. Elizabeth basically dies twice in the film, first being beaten to death by her younger self Sue, played by the wonderful Margaret Qualley, when the pair attempt to briefly coexist. But after Elizabeth dies, Sue's body begins to break down, so in an attempt to restore the balance, she uses the substance to try and generate a new version of herself. It doesn't work though, resulting in the entity that is monstrous and a blobby hybrid of Elizabeth and Sue, dubbed Monstro Eliza-Sue, prompting abject disgust from the live audience at the New Year's TV special that Sue was hired to host. One audience member then decapitates Eliza Sue before she tumbles down the street and collapses to the floor in an explosive mess of gore and flesh. Finally, Elizabeth's face emerges from the entrails, detaches itself, and crawls onto her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where it fizzles into the pavement and the remaining mess is promptly washed away by a street cleaner. Truly, it's a death scene to make you appreciate the unfiltered insanity that filmmakers can get away with in the horror genre.